Hello everyone, welcome along to the PT Autosport eSeries Season 2 finale. And well, the drivers found out not too long ago that the location of the final round of the championship season would be the iconic Virginia International Raceway. And what's more, you're going to see what is still going on because the race has already started here on the Global Sim Racing channel. And what's more, we've got Dallara LMP2s in a myriad of different weather conditions. Hello everyone, you're welcome along to the broadcast. My name's Alex Goldschmidt. I'm going to be joined in the booth by Jeremy Scott, and we've got Christian Deploy as our director behind the scenes, and he's going to have cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Now, Jeremy, VIR, it's a test, and it's going to be a difficult one in these LMP2 cars amidst a variety of wet, dry and wet weather conditions. And the person who comes out on top of this is going to go into the Aspiring Driver Shootout for PT Autosport, scheduled to take place later on this year for an opportunity for a prize of up to $250,000 US in partnership.
It really is, especially with the prototypes. We don't see them run too much around VIR. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And Alex, I've got to say, it is such a fantastic facility. If you haven't gone yet, I highly recommend you do, because it really is heaven on earth, as Paul Newman says. You've got your mix of, quick areas, the long straightaway, and some of your more technical areas. And if you have, I'm going to go back to Top Gear because that is probably the best introduction I've ever gotten from VIR. It is such a beautiful race course. As we take a look at what's going on right now, it's raining, and it's going to make things just a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, just over 22 minutes in, and the heavens at VIR have opened. We've got the battle here for first and second. So this is Luis Bellica in second position in the number 26. Running on the, I would imagine that's probably going to be more than likely a German name on that. Also, Garrett Maines from Powhatan VA, who was the fastest qualifier coming into the top 40. You can hear how difficult it's going to become because they're now on slick. If they're on slick tyres, as Bellica bails for pit road, so does Garrett Maines. We've truly got a big race on our hands, and this is going to be seeing the likes of Deshane, Falkingham, Nelson, Hinkson, Stansney, Wembley, Burnett, Hines. They've all got to decide when to bolt into the pit lane for wets. And what's more, folks, this is going to be a true endurance race. 2 hours on the clock, and it's 25 points up for grabs. You can see the amount of spray coming back from Matthew Deshane's car, the driver from New York in the number 5 car. Jeremy, VIR, it doesn't matter whether it's rain or shine, it always provides a great spectacle.
It really does, especially right now in the wet. We're seeing Deshane's and Wembley deciding to stay out. So we'll see how much longer they can stay up. But yeah, it really is a technical fortitude, especially here through the S's. And it was interesting to see the drivers kind of tiptoe their way through the roller coaster section and make things just a little messy. It's going to be interesting to see who stays out and whether the call to go to wets this soon in this wet weather has made life easier. The New York driver making his way around Oak Tree, which I will admit I've been there several times, but only once when Oak Tree was around. So, but I never did get a chance to see it in person.
Oh, you mean in live and in living colour, so to speak.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And now Luis Bellica has rejoined in 4th position, and he's quite a way down. He's probably the best part of 40 seconds down from Matthew Deshane, who continues to lead. So we've got the number 3. So obviously the numbers don't necessarily relate to where they qualified for Garrett Maines from the Virginias. It does in some respects, but he's now rejoined in 13th position. We've got 15 drivers. And more to the point, to have the opportunity to go into the PT Autosport Aspiring Driver Program and to go for that opportunity to maybe follow in the footsteps of the inaugural winner, who actually ended up in the Toyota GR86 Cup, which is still running alongside GT World Challenge Americas, which has got underway this weekend. I should know because one of our esteemed colleagues here from the Global Sim Racing channel is in the commentary box this weekend. Shout out DJ Clark. Again, this is so great to see that entities like PT Autosport are giving these drivers a chance to say, look, we know you're good behind the wheel of a simulator, but come and compete against the very best anywhere between... Oh, that's the 79 that's gone around. That's Nelson. That's Benjamin Nelson in the number 75. He's gone round. Wimbley, Hines, Ingram Harrison and William have all gone into the pit lane. But Benjamin Nelson had the biggest code brand right about now, and he's on slick tyres. You can tell that the tail on that car is definitely wagging the dog.
Yeah, and he decides to stay out, which is kind of interesting. We'll see what happens there, see if we can get a replay on that. But yeah, a little questionable to stay out with as wet as the conditions are going through the back part of the circuit, as we see several cars going into the pits now. But Belka back in the lead. Here is the replay.
Okay, so yeah, he's going to turn it in, and they're going... Oh, he just snaps on him. Got absolutely no control. He's a passenger. The slick tyres is trying to apply the power coming through down that downhill kink, and he's turned it left, and the back end's just over-rotated, and he's just not been able to catch it.
Nah, he's wiggling worse than a 16-year-old learning how to drive in the winter right now, so we'll see if he comes in this next time by. Questionable on why he did not come in. Was it because he was too late to pit in? We'll find out here shortly, but Nelson making his way through the S's right now. It's very wet out there. We're seeing temperatures really both on track and in the air staying about the same temperature as we see Henry going off course as well.
Yeah, he's... I think he's doing a bit of an Andreas Backerud back in the old rallycross days, FIA World RX, and kind of decides to duck down into pit road. So at the moment, well, with coming up to 90 minutes of this 2-hour race, and this is one of the good things that I love about this series. I was reading up all the information before we went live here, Jeremy, and it was about the fact of showing consistency under pressure and with changeable weather conditions. I mean, we've all here at GSRC, we love endurance racing. We also love the fact that when the weather comes in, it makes it a bit of an unknown goulash to sample, really. As you can see that Benjamin Nelson's still carrying on with those slick tyres, and he's currently running P5. He's staying out for another lap. That's another nearly 3.3 miles, and he's trying to do a Jenson Button like in Canada 2011 to win the longest ever Grand Prix in recorded history.
But here's the thing. You take a look at his lap times right now. Last time by of 52. Everybody else on wets running about the same time, except for Harrison, who just came out of the pits of 43.4. So I question that. I mean, yeah, you want to stay up front and get those points, but you've had a couple of offs and at least several near offs. Maybe go in and get those wets.
Yeah, and then he'd probably be running on pace with Lewis Bellica, the driver from Germany, in the number 26. So Lewis Bellica leads on lap number 17 with just over 90 minutes remaining of the season finale for the PT Autosports eSeries. You can see Benjamin Nelson's last lap was a 1:52.081. Matthew Deschênes in the number 5 car rounds out P2, is only an 8 tenths behind the German. Daniel Falkingham in the number 39 is a further 9 seconds adrift in P3. Then it's Mark Anthony Hinkson, Benjamin Nelson, who's on our screens at the moment in the number 79 Delara. Benjamin Nelson, Riley Stasny, Garrett Mains, Charles Wimbley, Christian Hines and Brandon William round out your top 10 as Deschênes in the butt kicker livery. Closing in on Lewis Bellica. And Bellica I've known for quite a couple of years. The Germans are always quite fast, and you put them in you put in an opportunity like this, they will most likely flourish. Obviously, with the Racing Prodigy series currently going on at the moment with real life, sim racers going to real life, such as Garrett Howe, who's going to make his NASCAR Whelen Euro Series debut this season, sporting the colours of BS competition. Lawrence Hertzing, who's also been in that series. And then you've got a whole host of great coaches like Catherine Legg, Tatiana Calderon, et al., and some of the premier teams in sim racing competing in identical radical cars. But look at the visibility. Matthew Deschênes is absolutely flying blind behind Lewis Bellica right now here, Jeremy. That's impressive.
That is not an area you want to be flying blind into. I mean, yeah, you see little lights. Oh, look at that wiggle there going through the S's. You see the little lights up ahead, and that's all you see, really. We are finding out also Garrett Maines, who was our leader before the cycle of pit stops, had a very long stop, and that's part of the reason why he's fallen down as Deshanes takes the lead side by side, going through Oak Tree.
So it's the run down the back stretch, all the way up to turn 13 before we head into roller coaster. Matthew Deshane from New York now leads from Lewis Belliker from Germany. And they are going to be hurtling at breakneck speed down towards the complex at turns 13, 14 and 15 before we head into the final couple of corners at Hogpen. And you can see just how treacherous this is. Lewis Belliker now starts to apply the power through the roller coaster section in towards Hogpen, and then it's the long run down the front stretch, because you've also got a slight kink at turn 18, which brings you across the stripe. Now Belliker having to do exactly the same as Deshanes, coming across the line onto lap number 20. And more to the point, well, these two are battling at nearly 160 miles an hour in the wet at VIR. And then we've also got the opportunity to wait and see when the track evolves here, Jeremy. And then it'll be the case of when's the crossover point to get back into that window. I'm probably thinking round about, if drivers are hitting maybe a 143, 144, that could be the crossover point when the track's evolved to the point where they'll go to slicks as we catch a replay with Ben Nelson once again.
Yeah, let's see what happens this time. I have a feeling I know, yep, that back end just slides around, and sometimes wants to see what the front end's looking like, but man, when is he going to come into the pits? I'm not seeing him come in anytime soon, so he has fallen a spot out of the top 5. That may hurt him, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Oh, one car off.
Oh, right. So that just goes to show how quickly this race can change. Garrett Maines actually, big thanks to our director, Christian Deploy, saying that Garrett Maines had a very long stop. He was in the lead when coming in. So, of course, Benjamin Nelson, I will be very surprised if that car has not picked up any damage. It looks like there is not a panel with a mark on it. I think it's just his virtual Nomex underwear that he's going to need to check after this race is concluded. But he's got Garrett Maines closing in on him. Garrett in the number 1 car. He's the man from the Virginias closing in. And this could be a very easy move. Maines is on wets, Nelson on slicks. And this is what you want to see here, Jeremy, that drivers rolling the dice and going for it. And again, we run on board with Garrett. You can see exactly as we saw with Deshane and Belliker just a few moments ago, complete rooster tails. Maines is going by the lights that are flashing in front of him.
Yeah, that's all you really can do, especially as you're heading into roller coaster, because you're going to have to pop out the last second there. You got to get some sort of visibility, especially going into the heavy braking zone.
Yeah, and through roller coaster we go. It's through turns 14 and now into what will be turn 15 coming up short. Well, it's now now going through Hogpen out of turn 17. Now pedal to the metal. Garrett Maines at over 130 miles an hour, completely blind with the lights blinking in front of him, and straight away Nelson decides to put discretion as the better part of valor. Lets Garrett Maines go through, and Maines now retakes what is now 6th position, and this was the man that qualified on pole position. It was a hyperpole shootout, 10 minutes, and each driver out of the 15 trying to put down their best lap. Of course, Brendan Blinn in the number 475 did not take the start, it looks like, and well, someone's definitely been in the pits for quite a spell, nearly 5 minutes in the pit lane. Christian Hines has just gone off in 9th place in the 97. Noah Ingram Harrison, the number 90, has just spent over 5 minutes in pit lane. Brandon William comes into pit lane, so we're going to see what happens with him with the GSRC replay, and that is on the run to roller coaster. Smack bang straight into the tyre barriers. The car did not turn, and he goes straight into the path of another vehicle. But Brandon William, that has really hurt his chances.
Talk about luck there for at least one of the drivers. Yeah, definitely not a place to go off in normal dry conditions, but when you're dealing with these wet conditions here, that makes life just a little bit harder. working Garrett Maines as we see him go through the roller coaster. He's got a lot of ground to make up. He's got about a 45, 46 second gap between he and the leaders, but here's the thing. Still got a long race to go. Anything can happen in the next hour, 20 minutes. And once again, there goes Nelson off the course. So one has to wonder how much longer he's going to go off and on and off and on until he decides maybe wets are probably the best thing for me right now.
Well, I think Jeremy is a bit like a yo-yo on a string. You don't know whether he's going to bound down or bound upwards. That's the big problem, because it's a case of he is the only one who I think hasn't pitted, or yeah, he's probably just decided, you know what, I'm going to brave it out. I'm going to do what I can. And we're seeing Matthew Deshane running a 53.0. Bellica 54.5, Falkingham 59.1, Hinkson 56.2, Stasny 55.1, Maines running a high 54.7, and Nelson, we're going to see another replay. That's at roller coaster, and that car's gone off once again. Yeah, Ben Nelson not having a great run, but still holding on to 7th position. This just goes to show how tricky these conditions. I thought I'd seen VIR in the wet before on iRacing, but to this multitude here, Jeremy, this is on a completely different biblical level of rainfall.
Yeah, the only thing we're missing right now is the standing water. Oh, wait, let me correct myself. There it is right there. Nonetheless, this is very wet for a lot of these drivers, and we're seeing what these drivers can do in this. As we go back to Deshanes, he is your leader. He's opened up a 3.5 second gap, I should say, over Bellica. We're about 21 laps completed for our leaders. And it's interesting to see who's doing what. And I still cannot believe that, not Maines, but Nelson has logged times as close to the leaders as he can on dry tires. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, there must be a hidden trick that Benjamin Nelson's got, like a magician with a rabbit in his hat. He's just still able to keep that number 79 Delara out on track here. And you can see going through those sets of corners that would have been going through Hogpen, looks rather nice and neat and composed. But I think the biggest problem...
Looking at the tire, I'm sorry, I moved over my timing screen. Yeah, he's on wets.
He's on wets?
He's on wets, according to our timing screen here.
Okay, right.
The only two drivers who are not on wets are Devine and Ingram Harrison.
Right.
There goes Nelson off again.
Okay, so I think he's probably, with the severity of the rainfall and the standing water puddles, that's probably where you're seeing all the dips through roller coaster, through Hogpen. That's probably where it's catching out a lot of drivers. And Nelson at the minute is the one that seems to be the most consistent of having difficulties with it, because as soon as you get the rainfall in, these drivers are running at lap times probably at around, they're 15 seconds off pace quite easily. There you see the standing water as we ride on board with Benjamin Nelson. Let's keep with him for a little bit. Now he's going to be going up towards South Bend very shortly. Now this is up the hill. You can see he's trying to fight that car through the standing water. It's having completely different effects on the aero properties, and there he goes again through into South Bend at turn 10. Snap of oversteer, the back end steps out to the right hand side. I think if anyone needed style points for car control, it would definitely be a 9.95 to Ben Nelson.
It's interesting watching Nelson on board, and how you would think in this kind of situation he would use the rain line. I mean, he looks like he's using it on the straightaways, so once he gets to the apexes, that's where he's having the difficulty. Maybe get a groove or two higher off the corner as we go down through roller coaster headed towards Hogpen. Nelson, interestingly enough, 23 points behind our points leader, Garrett Maines, who has 68 points. Bellica, 5 points back, so on track right now. Bellica could be taking the championship, so we see Garrett Maines replay here with a little bit of spin.
Oh dear. Oh, these tyres are not coping with these wet weather conditions. And as you rightly said, Garrett Maines currently running P6. That's 13 points. That'll put him on 81. Lewis Bellica would be on 85. So we've got an hour and 20 minutes to go, folks. But while the drivers are not out of the woods, let alone the standing water that's surrounding the the entirety of the 18 corners that we have here at this 3.27 mile, 5.262 kilometer circuit at VIR. But one of the things that always impresses me is when we see so many drivers going toe-to-toe in these wet weather conditions, and all you've got to go on. We've seen it a couple of times here today, Jeremy, between Deshane and Bellica, and then also between Mains and Nelson a few laps ago, where you're coming out of Hogpen, you're going down the front straightaway, and all of a sudden you're just thinking, right, just breathe, take it easy, don't panic. But the first thing that a driver does as soon as they make a wrong move is panic when everything goes horribly south.
Yeah, and you don't want to panic, especially in these kind of conditions at this kind of track. We're watching Riley Stasny catch up to Hinkson. That's a battle for fourth place as both drivers coming down the straightaway. Stasny's going to look to the inside, but like you mentioned, you don't want to make those snap judgments. You don't want to make those snap moves in these conditions because it can go horribly wrong really quick as Stasny goes around, and he will take, Riley will take fifth place.
Yeah, so at the moment, well, we're, as you can see that as he powers it through Horseshoe and in towards NASCAR Bend at T3, even Riley, you can see that the rear tyres, they're just trying to spool up that a little bit too quickly. You get a little bit too early on the power through certain corners, especially T1 at Horseshoe. You're breaknecking at about 150, 155 miles an hour. You're all the way down the gearbox into first, maybe even second gear. Maybe at a push, probably if you're lucky, about 40, 50 miles an hour. And when you rotate that car, you think, yes, I could get it. And in the wet weather conditions, as we're finding out with multiple drivers, including the man who was leading this series by 5 points coming into this final round, finds himself all the way down in 6th, and even he is not having the best of time. Deshane and Bellica and Falkingham seem to be the three drivers that have really got their head around these conditions, but with just over an hour and a quarter to go, we will still have that evolution of when we go from dry to wet to dry, and who knows how long this has gone off. But Matthew Deshane has just gone off. Deshane has just gone off and Bellica's retaken the race lead. So drama for Deshane from New York as the German in the 26. That puts him 90 points. That'll put him on 88 points. And if it stays as it is now, Lewis Bellica will become the PT Autosport eSports Series champion. But he's not out of the woods yet. No one is.
I'll take a look at the replay here, and I have a feeling I know how this is going, and yeah, it does. Normally these runoffs here, they're super inviting in the wet, but turn one, you've got a downhill slope. You've got that lip there coming off the pavement, so that's going to be even more inviting for the car to go deep. He's lucky he didn't go deeper as it is, but Deshane's kind of licking his wounds here. He's about 3.5 seconds behind. He's lucky that's all that he lost, because Bellica, tell you what, 52.8, that's the only driver we've seen in the 52s last time by.
Yeah. So Matthew Deshane with that spin, you could see the front wheels locking up as the car aquaplaned forward. And that just goes to show how committed these drivers are. So Bellica leads as we are very close to completing a quarter century of laps nearly at the end of lap 25. As through into the final couple of sections they go through roller coaster, through Hogpen. And Matthew Deshane, the man from New York in the number 5 car, well, he is trying to close down what is a 3.3 second advantage. Lewis Bellica, based out of Karlsruhe in Baden-Württemberg, not too far away from Hockenheim, as in the circuit, folks. Then we've got Matthew Deshane from Kingston, New York, the 21-year-old. But really good to see that this competition, which is mainly based for drivers between the age of 18 and 23 years, it's attracted an international following, and it's great to see drivers like Lewis Bellica come into this. And when you think about it, Bellica has been in iRacing. He's competed in IRL karting. He's been part of the Porsche eSports Super Cup Contender Series. So he's now, what he says, I'm racing professionally in the world of sim racing, and this could give this young man, this 20-year-old from Germany, an opportunity to go back into real life motorsports after karting funding eventually ran out.
With these sim series, you know, it affords people who are trying to get back into motorsport, I should say, a chance. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, driver, could be a race official, could be an announcer of some sort. So having this PT Autosport is huge because, yeah, you may not get the real feel, but you get a generalization of what needs to happen for a car to, you know, go around a track at speed. You get a generalization of battles because iRacing, you know, it has that penalty system that you kind of have in real racing. You don't necessarily get penalty points for contact or all that for some things, but look at Deshane's, I should say Belka closing in on some lap traffic as well. But back to my point, you know, it's a different way of penalizing real life versus sim, but still, you still get that concept.
Yeah, exactly. Looks to be, I think that might be Noah Ingram Harrison that Lewis Belliker is trying to get through on, is it? No, or Christian Hines, possibly.
Fine.
Yeah, so Christian Hines in the 97 gets put a lap down as Lewis Belliker fires his way down towards Horseshoe here on lap number 27. I mean, well, the running order at the moment, folks, is Lewis Belliker leads Matthew Deshane by 3.5 seconds. Daniel Falkingham in the number 39 rounds out the top three. So there's Matthew Deshane in the number 5 car. Same number run by Nigel Mansell back in his days at Williams in Formula 1. Daniel Falkingham, the driver from New England, from Jonesport, ME, the 22-year-old, rounding out the top three. Then we've got Mark Anthony Hickson, from the man, from the Barbadian driver from Bridgetown St. Philip in Barbados, rounding out the top four. Then it's Riley Stasny from Chesterton, Indiana. The 22-year-old rounds out your top five. Now what we're seeing here, we've got Garrett Maines in sixth spot, the number one qualifier from the Virginias in sixth place, the 23-year-old. Now what we're seeing here is something that could evolve this track into something very, very bone dry, Jeremy, because what am I seeing? I'm seeing sunshine.
Yeah, we're starting to see that temperature rise, the ambient temperature rise as the cars are going around the circuit. I say Stasny, I had a feeling, yeah, Chesterton, Indiana. That's actually near my neck of the woods here, the Helmar Broadcasting Center, as we see Maines making his way around. You got to wonder who's going to be the first to pull the trigger. It's not going to happen anytime soon because, look, you're still seeing a good bit of spray, a lot of standing water the drivers are still going through. Maybe in a couple laps, it depends on how quick the sunshine moves its way across the circuit.
Yeah, well, Lewis Belliker's just crossed the stripe and completed lap 27. He's just put in a 53.1. His best lap of the race so far is, oh, well, we've had dramas. Matthew Deshane has gone off again. So has Noah Ingram Harrison. And Deshane is fighting a little bit of a losing battle. Garrett Maines coming out of Oak Tree has to correct some snap-on opposite lock on the rear axle as it tried to break away from him. And Maines currently running 17.1 seconds behind Stasny. So Lewis Belliker started on the outside of the front row. Deshane started third. Daniel Falkingham started sixth and is up to P3. Mark Anthony Hinkson from St. Philip in Barbados. So we're going to see what happens here. This is Daniel Falkingham. Oh, it's at that same part of the complex again. We've seen that with Matthew Deshane. We've seen that with Benjamin Nelson. We've now seen that with Daniel Falkingham. We've even seen Lewis Belliker come a bit unstuck as well. But the German now getting into a real good rhythm. And now he's got a lead of nearly 6 seconds. So I'm going to be quite interested to see how the lap times correlate. I think we're not at that point. I would probably say if the ambient air temperature is now increased to nearly 21 degrees Celsius, as that is Noah Ingram Harrison going off at the roller coaster section. Wow. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a little bit longer than just a couple of laps here at VIR. I think we're probably going to be looking maybe another 10, maybe 15 minutes, depending on how quickly this sunshine and the ambient temperature, which has just clicked on to 21 degrees Celsius, is going to dissipate all this water. But it's just dependent on what happens now. Here's Samuel Burnett, the driver from Canada. Oh, now where did he lose that? Was that on the start-finish straight of all places? And his Dallara P217 has just become rearranged.
Well, and here's my question too. Did he make contact with that guardrail on driver's right? So that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And something I noticed too, Alex, is we're still seeing a little bit of rain in some spots. So I don't know if we're going to see those drivers go to those dry tires in the next 10 to 15 minutes. It may still be a while because we're seeing off and on showers in different parts of the track. And I don't think that the slicks are going to be just ready for that as of yet. Deschaines has lost, as we take a look at a replay now, he just lost it there on that rumble strip there just before the start-finish line.
Yeah, Sam Burnett. Yeah, you could actually see the left-hand side. The man from Aurelia in Ontario, Canada, 22 years of age. Yeah, just he was rotating the car, so just keeping with that inside wall, but keeping away from it. And the back end, he turned it right. The back end stepped out on the left, and then it just went complete tank slapper mode, and off it went and backwards, and he was a complete passenger. Meantime, now we've got Riley Stasny versus Mark Anthony Hinkson. This is for position out on track, so for P4 overall. And yeah, I mean, the air's getting a little bit lighter. There's a bit more blue sky up above, but as you rightly said, Jeremy, there is still... Oh, no, that's not what Hinkson needed. And Stasny looking to one side, now to the other. Hinkson making that Dallara P217 as wide as humanly possible. Stasny, is he going to try and go around the outside? He's going to give it a go. He's going to give it a try. He's alongside, and it's out of Oak Tree they go. Hinkson gets a wobble coming out of the corner as they both apply the power. It's kind of like shades of Mansell and Senna, wheel to wheel, side by side, millimetres apart, back in 1991. And Hinkson's got the run. He's closed the door to Stasny, who switches to the right-hand side, up to roller coaster at turn 13. Is Stasny going to get through? The answer is yes.
And Stasny using that rain line to his advantage, coming down through the roller coaster. I thought he would have had him coming off of Oak Tree, but nonetheless, Stasny opened up a bigger gap and going to slide just a little bit through Hogpen, and that's going to give Hinkson a chance to catch up, going down the straightaway once again. But great stuff here for the battle for fourth place, as they're still trying to battle it. Now Hinkson's going to try that dry line phenomenon.
Yes, indeed, and the drivers now make their way into Hogpen at the Horseshoe at T1. Then it's going to be the run through the quick left-hander, well, the quick left combination here at NASCAR Bend before they go into turn 4A at left hook. And then you've got the snake complex between 6A and 6B. And then one of the things I love about VIR, Jeremy, is the complex you get from left hook all the way down to Oak Tree. It's like literally, it's how many chicanes do you need, as we see Garrett Main's picture in picture. There's going to be a replay, and he's lost it again. Garrett Main's race is going from great to absolutely undesirable right about now.
Speaking of, Deschaines is actually down to 7th right now.
Oh, what's happened to
Deschaines is in the pits.
Oh, look at the front. That's it. Deschaines' race is done. That is significant damage. 3 wheels on the wagon, the front end completely off. So this has given maybe a little bit of an incentive now to Garrett Mains. Now, how far back? Well, he's nearly a minute and 30 behind Lewis Bellica. So what has he got to do? He's got to basically finish level. He's got to finish second. Oh, this is Deschaines. He's gone right into the back. That was of the number 90 of Noah Ingram Harrison. Hits the tyre barriers. And that's it. Both cars hit the tyre barrier incredibly hard. Oh, that was just one of the biggest moments of the race so far. And it was with the man that was battling for the race lead, Matthew Deschaines from New York. The 21-year-old from Kingston, New York, and we're going to have a look on board. Oh, that's the worst thing to happen in rainy conditions. Oh.
that just, oh, you hate it for Deshanes, because if you watch that replay, Ingram Harrison just at the last second decided to take that line going into the roller coaster, and really at the speed that Deshanes was closing up on Ingram Harrison, nowhere they could go.
Yeah, and that was probably at the best part of over 150 plus miles an hour in a Dallara P217 LMP2 car. Lewis Belliker, in the meantime, now has got a lot of daylight at the end of the tunnel. Call it nearly 43 seconds, if you will, because Daniel Falkingham now is in second. Riley Stasny now completes your top three, as we're just over 4 minutes away from the top of the hour. And, well, the track is starting to evolve slightly, but not by much. Lewis Belliker's last lap was a 1:51.4, so he's taking about a second out of his previous lap times. Falkingham a 53.1, Stasny 53.2, Hinkson 55.2, Mains 55.3, Nelson a 54.0, Wembley a 56.1, Hines down in 8th place, it's made up 5 spots, funnily enough, from 13th on the grid, as Falkingham. Oh, yeah, now, yeah, that was a slight code brown there coming out of Hogpen at turn 17, but he managed to gather it together, but that's going to lose him a couple of seconds to Riley Stasny. But I mean, what can we say about these first sort of like 35 minutes here, Jeremy? It's just like, well. Like literally, we came in as the rain started tumbling down. Benjamin Nelson has got more style points rather than championship points for this round of the season. And Lewis Belliker having a great ding-dong battle with Matthew Deshane until Deshane having that unfortunate incident. Samuel Burnett, well, I don't think he's going to be coming out anytime soon. He's been in pit road for nearly 8 minutes. The back end of that Dallara P217 was completely written off at the rear end, especially with the right rear suspension and upright, and the wheel going, let's just say, a bit limp, so to speak, on the right rear. But that just goes to show how quickly we've seen this race change on a dime. And as I say that, Falkingham just loses it again, and that's through going into South Bend at turn 10 on the run down to Oak Tree.
Yeah, it's been, that area's just been so treacherous. And of course, also, I've been watching the ambient temperature go up, the track temperature go down. So we're starting to see a bigger gap between the two. So now we're starting to lose that grip as the field working their way around. 32 laps completed, just an hour into the race.
Yep, so Riley Stasny finds himself after Falkingham's spin going through into South Bend. Well, it was more than, it was not a spin, it was more like a lack of complete traction with the Michelin tyres aquaplaning underneath the Dallara of the number 39. But Lewis Belliker is starting to pick up pace. His last lap, 50.577. Stasny has a scare there going through into Hogpen. So we're getting to that point now where when we see Belliker, I think if we're getting towards the 46s, 45s, you can see that coming through Oak Tree, he's being very, very careful. He's trying not to afford any mistakes thereof, so to speak.
Yeah, you really can't have any off so far. I mean, 52 seconds is a big gap to second place, but look at who's behind Falkingham. Stasny and Hinkson, they're all within 5 seconds of him, so one huge off, and that could mean race over. But yeah, I think we're starting to see the ending of the rain. So far, though, anything can happen, as we've seen in the past couple of minutes. We've seen a lot of challengers go off and end their race. Look at how Belliker is really sawing against that wheel there, especially coming through Hogpen. Going to be interesting to see what happens here in the next couple of laps, as well as some lap traffic is up ahead going into one.
Yeah, I don't think Garrett Main, let's not count Garrett Mains out of this race whatsoever. And as I said, it's 25 points according to the championship points, 25 points for a win. Now, if Belliker gets 25 points, that is going to put him on 88. What Garrett Mains needs to do, he needs to either tie Belliker on points and it will go to count back on wins, or he's got to beat Bellica out on track. Now the gap is 1 minute 34 seconds between the pair. There's still an hour, and anything, as we've just rightly proved in this broadcast so far, folks, anything can happen. And we've seen big contenders. Deshane now has been in pits for in pit road for nearly 7 minutes. Sam Barnett from Canada, north of 11 minutes. Noah Ingram Harrison, who took that big hit from the rear, he's been in around for the same amount of time as Matthew Deshane. So we really have two main drivers that we will need to keep our eyes on in the dying stages, which is going to be our race leader Lewis Bellica and our man in fifth, Garrett Mains. These are the two drivers that are the two at the top of the standings. We haven't got Matteo Kunstner here here. We've got Benjamin Nelson, we've got Daniel Falkingham, but they could be possibly in with a shout of maybe taking third spot in the finishing order in the standings. Obviously, there is going to be a protest window after this race, but Bellica is more than on his way to getting an automatic entry into the PT Autosport Aspiring Driver Shootout, which has yet to have its dates confirmed, but it did take place in November of 2024. That was the returning Sam Burnett back out on track and off, and I think nearly hit the scenery. So we got Connor Henry, the driver from Georgia, and he goes round the outside. Oh, the Georgian goes for a bit of a spin. Well, Sam Burnett has got a completely fine car up until that moment when the rear end got literally whacked from behind.
Yeah, don't want to have that happen. Something else that I've been watching too is the fall off of time. Bellica with a 44 last time by was 30 times, dip in low 50 or 40. So now we wonder how long until that crossover starts to happen. The track temperature has been remaining steady. We're over an hour into this race. The ambient temperature 22, track temperature about 17.
Well, yeah, it looks like it was Garrett Mains that actually rear-ended Sam Burnett, who's going to be thinking, why is it all going so horribly wrong right now? Just ends up wiping out on the start-finish straight, is in pit road for 11.5 minutes, comes out, has Connor Henry spinning in front of him, and Garrett Mains hits the back end of the 256 from Canada. That just goes to show that the unpredictability of wet weather conditions is starting to catch people out. But lap times I have seen on aggregate between 4 out of the top 5 have started to improve on lap times. Lewis Bellica's last lap, a 150.591. There's Sam Burnett, the Canadian from Ontario. Now returning to pit lane, he's going to repair that damage again, because one of the things about endurance racing, yes, this just goes to show that you never count your chickens before they hatch. And once that checkered flag flies, there is every possibility that a surprise could be in the offing. And I have to say, shout out to Mark Anthony Hickson from Barbados, doing a really, really good job in the 86 car, running in the country's national colours as per the flag. He's trying to close in on Daniel Falkingham, who in turn is now closing in on Riley Stasny. Stasny now is in P2, so Falkingham's dropped it a couple of times. So Stasny has gotten through. Hinkson thinks that there's an opportunity of a potential P3 in the offing. Air temperature now 22.2 degrees Celsius. Track temperature 16.6. So yeah, there's still a lot of water being sprouted out by these cars at the moment, and that, Jeremy, is showcasing how difficult these conditions are going to be for these drivers over the next 55 minutes.
And it also matters when we see the sun come out, because that's going to warm up the track. As we see, I'm watching the air temperature go up, and the track temperature either stay steady or go down. But this battle for second place between Stasny and Falkingham really looking pretty good as we're watching Hinkson go around the circuit. Let's see how he does coming around through Oak Tree. And yeah, so far so good for the number 86. As Falkingham really closing in on that number 118 of Stasny. Now, of course, Bellica with he's already in North Carolina while everybody's in Virginia. 1 minute lead separates the two drivers, and yeah, points matter. But I have a feeling while we saw the first 25 minutes of our broadcast be hectic, Alex, I wouldn't be surprised if this track dries out for the final stint of this race and really starts to warm up. How crazy it's going to be as drivers come around Hogpen and they say, you know what, maybe we can put on dries, but right now it's just way too wet on the circuit to have anything done. But we're starting to see some of the drivers make their way offline to get some of that wet weather to keep those tires cool.
Yeah, Lewis Bellica, after lap 36, just put down a marker. It's a 1:49.2. So the first driver out of the entire field so far after the deluge of weather around about the 22-minute mark, as we now have 53.5 minutes left on the time to go until the checkered. Lewis Bellica, the first driver to dip under 1 minute 50. So his pace showing that we are around about 11 seconds off of the... well, yeah, and Bellica has actually set the fastest overall lap of the race, a 1:38.374. But more to the point, actually, there's qualifying points that we do need to remember as well. Garrett Maines actually secured 3 points in qualifying by putting it on pole, so that puts him on 71. Bellica was 5 points behind coming into it, added another 2 by putting it P2. But Bellica at this moment in time, let's look at it, so it's 71 plays 64. 71 plays 65 coming into this. So because of the fact that we had the 10-minute shootout between the pair, I'm going to pick up a pen and well, a notepad and a pen. So yeah, Garrett Maines was on 68. If my pen would actually start writing as well, there we go, it's even better.
Alex, from broadcasting, we never were taught math and told we never had to use it. Come on.
Well, until now.
Today's the day, so
yes,
the
indeed.
29th of March, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, mark that one in your diaries, folks. So, yeah, and Bellica came in with 63 points, picked up another 2 for qualifying, so that's 65. So, looking at it from this perspective, Garrett Maines currently on 14 points. That puts him on 85. Lewis Bellica, plus 25 to that, it's 90 points. So I can't remember off the... so Charles Wimbley's off. Now we're seeing all the warts and all. What Delara don't want you to see behind the behind everything on these Delara P217s, but just goes to show the amount of attention to detail that iRacing put in. And there we've got Falkingham closing in on Riley Stasny. They've got a back marker just in front. Brandon Williams gone off the car. In front is Christian Hines. So where is Falkingham going to park the car? This is coming out of Oak Tree.
Oh, that's a brilliant move. That is a brilliant move by Stasny to put the lap down car of Hines as a pick there as they go down heading into roller coaster. Wow, great. That's some big brain move stuff right there.
Yeah, so just looking at it from this perspective, if Garrett Maines by the end of this race is second, we have to go to countback. Which is...
I'm glad it's people smarter than me that have to do that.
Yes, indeed. So I'm not going to look back at previous broadcasts. Main reason being is, well, at the moment, Lewis Bellica now leading by I think he's leading by a state mile rather than a country mile at the moment here, Jeremy, because he's nearly 65 seconds up the road as Riley Stasny has dropped it, and through goes Daniel Falkingham at turn 1. Oh, it's that dreaded runoff area that strikes again.
Yeah, it's hungry for cars today, especially damp race cars. As Stasny with a little bit of an off now, he's lost about 2 seconds on aggregate. So we'll see if he can get around that lap car that he so smartly picked for position. I don't know if he can. He's still losing so much ground with Clag on the tires going through turn number 1. But, you know, here's the interesting part about VIR. That front stretch is right there close to the border. So, yeah, Hinkson already in the Charlotte market while everybody else is rightfully so in Virginia. Hinkson might have, he might have Mains on his tail here shortly. That'll be the battle for 4th place. Looking at their lap time, Mains running about, 5 seconds faster than Hinkson last time by.
Right, Noah Ingram Harrison has just come on YouTube chat on the GSRC channel saying, I'm sorry to Deshane, I've never driven in the rain on iRacing and it kept putting me on dry tyres and I have no clue how to get wets. I've only had the sim for 2 months, so I had no clue. Good season though. Big news though, folks. Look at the gap between Bellica and Falkingham. It's come down because Lewis Bellica has just been into the pit lane.
Ooh.
Now, has the German decided to go for slicks or has he opted to stay on those wet weather tyres? His last lap before this one was around about a 1:50. This could be a very interesting time in this race at the moment, Jeremy, because if Bellica starts lighting up the timesheets purple, then this might be the indicator, or could he be the guinea pig and the experiment goes wrong?
Well, timing's not showing a change in tires just yet. Let's see if it shows when it crosses the line, but Mains all over the back of Hinkson. That's the battle for 2nd place. Also the battle for 4th place heats up with Falkingham and Stasny. So Hinkson and Mains moving up to 2nd place. Wonder what happened there. Looks like we do have Falkingham and Stasny in the pits as well. So we'll see if they're going what they're going to go with this next time by. As they are both out. Looks like they might also be out on wets. But look at this battle for 2nd place, I should say. Mains trying to go around the high line, and he does around Hinkson. Wow, that is some high commitment stuff through that part of the circuit.
Yeah, that is incredibly brave there by Garrett Mains. And you know what this means? 2nd place is 20 points. If Garrett Mains brings it home in 2nd, that puts him on 91 points.
1 point. That's all you need sometimes. You need 1 point.
You just need that uno mas, as they would say. But the thing is, I think Bellica might have just taken on a full tank of fuel. May have taken on a full tank of fuel. Probably just to keep the center of gravity down in the car and get those lap times. And that's going to be quite crucial. Garrett Mains on his last lap, however, get this. 1:48.885, and now he decides to go into pit lane. That's going to release Mark Anthony Hinkson into P2. So, and then Benjamin Nelson is about a further 29 seconds adrift. So, more to the point, it's going to be the case of Bellica, if he stays up front, it's dependent on what Mains does now. And he's only just got on his marks in pit road about 10 seconds ago. So if he is in there for a full 42 seconds, that says to me, full tank of gas in the car and get ready to see if he decides to short fuel it and then put in that additional bit of fuel when they're changing tyres, going from wets to dries, there's an opportunity here. That's what I see. But Garrett Mains will be doing the full pit stop cycle at this moment.
Oh, Nelson coming out of the pits with dry tires. So Nelson is the first one to gamble going from wets to dries, as it looks like Maine's still on wet. So that is an interesting call from the driver from Carolina, as Maine's comes out in 5th place. Doesn't lose too much in position, but let's see what Nelson does here. Little wiggle from Maine's as he is trying to get back up to temperature with Nelson behind him.
Those slicks on Nelson's tyres are going to be absolutely stone cold. Now, we're not talking about stone cold Steve Austin 316. I just whooped you. We're going to be talking about stone cold tyres. That is going to be very, very crucial. And then, more to the point, you got Garrett Mains, and then just behind that is it's going to be I think that's William behind Mains at the moment. So. Oh, and Ben Nelson, that experiment has not gone well. That is now off track for the 6th place number 79.
Maine's also off track as well. So Nelson was off track right from the get-go, and Maine's back off track once again.
Oh, have they both decided? Oh God, look at this! Oh, look at the wheel work that Ben Nelson's having to do. That car's front end is far from compliant. It's far from happy either. And then you see picture in picture, there's the replay, Garrett Mains going off of the roller coaster. Oh my goodness me. It's all coming to a head now, and again Nelson, that's coming out of South Bend at turn 10. And he loses 6th place to Christian Hines.
Well, Hankson's in the pits as well, and I'm wondering, I think that Nelson chose way too early to get those slicks on. He's the only driver out there testing them. And look, the ambient temperature is still 22 Celsius, but the track temperature has now fallen to 15.5 degrees Celsius. So I still think it's way too early for anybody to be experimenting with slicks. Here's Hinkson.
Yeah, I completely agree, Jeremy. We are no way near that crossover point. I think if we're lucky, if it's, you know, when you look at how the race started after 20 minutes, the rain came down. Who's not to say 20 minutes before the end is when the track really livens up. And then we've got a party on our hands. Nelson again having further dramas. And he's really, really not having a great time out there. This is going to give a great opportunity to Daniel Falkingham, who's currently P2 at the moment. Garrett Mains at the moment is 4th. And that puts him on 86 points. So it's still 4 between Bellica and Mains at the moment, as we hit 42 minutes on the timer remaining. There's the Carolina native Ben Nelson in the number 79. Yeah, I think you're... Oh, he's gone off again. It's
too early.
He's now going to have to live with it. I'm sorry to say this for Ben. He's going to lose more time if he goes back into the pit lane. That's going to be slowing down to 50 miles an hour, and the back end's just wanting to do what it wants to do, rather than.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so I think it's more the case that he's going to have to live with it. It's his choice, and sometimes you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And of course, also, it's interesting. We've seen some of the passes here in these conditions where the outside line is preferably quicker than the inside line. There goes Nelson starting to use that rain line around Oak Tree. But here's my worry. Once that crossover point happens, how destroyed are his tires going to be? Because he's the only one on slicks, and I know why he did it, so he could, maybe reverse engineer a pass for the lead there when everybody else goes in to get off those wets.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the... no! It's all gone horribly wrong. That was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for Ben Nelson. Straight off. Can't do anything about it. And he's straight into the barriers. Oh. And Falkingham's in the pit lane as well now. So I think Ben Nelson, just as you said, there was a worry and our fears were just confirmed. Let's have a look at the GSRC replay. Back end steps out. Oh,
that's it.
That's Falkingham. The two guys that possibly could have gone over Kunze for P3 in the standings in the PT Autosport eSeries. But now this has given a real good opportunity. I think the person that's profited from it the most is the man we're seeing right now, the number 1 of Garrett Mains, because now he's in P3. And that puts him on 89 points as Mark Anthony Hinkson. Oh, he's going to go for a spin as well. But good thing was he held the brakes and it stopped the car very quickly on the grass. So Garrett Mains, he's 13 seconds away from Riley Stasny. And that is the gap between being second in this and being first in this, because the man who's leading at the moment, Lewis Belliker, currently only has a 1-point advantage after qualifying here at round 5. And this is what I love when a series can be decided right at the wire, Jeremy. You love to see it. This is how it should be decided. Mano a mano, right at the last gasp.
Exactly. And now Mains knows what he has to do. He knows his target. He's got to get around Stasny for second place. Of course, we've seen how good Stasny has been the second half of the race. Does he? It's going to be interesting to see how he gets around. I'm watching the timing screen as well. Henry and Falkingham both are in a battle for 7th place. We'll keep an eye on that. But Bellica, talk about the race that he has had since he dispatched of... Since he dispatched Deshanes, who looks like might be back on the circuit as well. I'll tell you what, he's been nothing but consistent to get up front and really extend that lead. We're now into a minute 16 over second place. Yeah.
As the Germans would say, meine Güte, my God. But yeah, I mean, Lewis Belliker has done an absolutely sterling job. Read the conditions right and has not made any knee-jerk reactions. I think Benjamin Nelson's decision to go on to slicks at that point was his undoing, and we saw that happen. And well, I think Ben's called it time because he was in the pits for 1 minute and 42 seconds. The car has not gone past the 42 lap mark, so Ben Nelson, I think, has called time on today. But, well, when you think about it, with 37 minutes still to go, we've got Connor Henry in pit lane. Matthew Deshane saying to Noah Ingram Harrison, all good, it happens, see you next season. I like that kind of talk, that kind of statement saying, yeah, let's see how you get on and how you improve between now and next year, and then we'll go for it again and see what happens. Garrett Mains, the man who's in contention for the eSeries victory. Oh, he's done a full-on Stig Blomqvist trying to control the opposite lock. And he caught it so beautifully. Full left hand down. And this is through at Oak Tree, I believe. It was not at Oak Tree. It's a little bit further.
The Hog Pen.
It was at Hog Pen. So completely sideways. But he hasn't lost much time to Riley Stasny, the Indiana native, and the 118, who, well, Riley did not factor into the top 10 coming into this final round of the season. But we are now seeing lap times. Let's have a look. Lewis Belliker 50.0. Riley Stasny coming across the stripe now, 51.0. Garrett Mains' last lap was a 50.3. Mark Anthony Hinkson, 49.6. So we are getting to a possible crossover point here, Jeremy. But that crossover point, with 35.5 minutes remaining on the counter, is getting less easier to identify.
I was going to say, about what lap time do you think we're going to see that crossover? I'm thinking in the 45s.
That's what I was kind of thinking. 44, 45 would be the optimum choice. But yeah, with Ben Nelson deciding to do it when we were in the 50s, that was no bueno at all.
Oh, no. I mean, you could see that one coming because at that point, there was still a ton of spray. We're seeing less spray the more we go on. I mean, in spite of a 7-degree temperature difference, it could happen sooner rather than later. You know, it's just a matter of when is it going to happen. You know, there's not that many cars on the circuit, so it may not happen right away. There's not enough cars to spray it. We might see these rain tires for the rest of the race because we're only at 34 minutes left to go in this final race of the season for PT Autosport Series. It's Belica, Stasny, and Maines, your top three. Maines about 9.6 seconds away from possibly capturing this season's title.
I mean, you know, when things started back on round one on January 25th, when it was Indy Pro 2000 at New Hampshire Oval, then it was the VW Beetle at Daytona Rallycross Long on February 8th, Xfinity Supra N24 on February 22nd, and then the McLaren MP 412C GT3 at Second Nevada last time, and then we bring them into what is, well, one shy of the most blistering prototypes that you have seen on the iRacing server, of course, the good old GTPs. But the Dallara P217 LMP2 has been a stalwart of iRacing special events, and it's really, I think, the best way to test these drivers. Put them in a full aero car and just say, right, this is your situation. You've got a 10-minute hyperpole shootout. You've got 1, maybe 2 tries to get your best lap in, and then we're going to put you through the ringer. And at the moment, Lewis Belica is leading by nearly 1 minute and 20. We're riding on board with Mark Anthony Hinkson in the number 86 car, a man from Bridgetown, St. Philip in Barbados, the 24-year-old. He's about 18 seconds behind Garrett Maines, who is slowly but surely, Jeremy, closing in on Riley Stasny from Chesterton, Indiana, in the battle for P2. And this is what Maines needs to concentrate on. He doesn't need to go after Belica because he knows it's too far out of reach. Go for the next man, and with 1 point, secure the crown.
51.4 last time by from Stasny. Maines with a 49.7. So yeah, 2 seconds a lap. That's going to eat into the time real quick, though. Maines, he's been hovering around the upper 8s, lower 9s when it comes to the gap as we're watching him go down through the roller coaster. And yeah, we're starting to see that sunshine hit, but I'm not seeing too much of a change in the track temp. It's still staying steady at 15.6 degrees Celsius. 22.5 in Falkingham with a long off. So anything he's trying to do to get back into position with Hinkson, not going to happen so far. That gap has reached 9.1 seconds for the title here in PT Autosport. Less than 32 minutes left to go. Anything can happen.
Yeah, and Garrett Maines just trying to keep the car on the black stuff, and that's what you need to do in these kind of races. He's had quite a few moments going off track in bad conditions. There was nearly an off track there going through out of NASCAR bend and into left hook, but this is where things now start to get a little bit more dangerous, so to speak. There's a lot of rubber marbles thanks to the new iRacing debris system that has been introduced in the last few months. But oh, Connor Henry, oh, he's gone straight into the barriers. And well, Connor Henry, the man from Durham, Georgia, the 21-year-old, has just hit the barriers hard and rearranged the nose of that Dallara. So that is going to be that's been him in the pits. Connor Henry has been in the pits now for 6.5 minutes. But
now we're hearing Connor was on dries. So yeah, another driver.
Oh, another one that chanced it.
Well, yeah. So twice we've seen drivers go into the pits, assigned to slap on the dry. So I'm just wondering, yeah, with the track temperature not going up, Alex, I have a feeling that this is going to be a wet tire race. So now Maines just needs to put the nose to the grindstone and close that gap to second place. He's now up to 7.1 seconds, so he's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett Maines is on wets, Christian Hines on wets, Brandon William on wets. Yeah, Connor Henry was on dries. Yeah, I think you're right with your assumption, to be honest with you, Jeremy, that I don't think we're going to see many drivers, if not many at all, go on to those dry Michelin tyres, because at this point they could be skating on very, very thin ice. And what that can mean is possibly one wrong move. If you accidentally lock up your brakes and the fronts decides to just lock up and you go on off that road as a passenger, as we've seen with several drivers tonight, quite a few have already hit the barriers and ended up with the repercussions of a rearranged car.
Yeah, and they have a rearranged car, missing corners. You don't want to do that, especially if you are gunning for the championship. So Maines and Bellica, I can see them staying. But if Bellica pits, expect everybody else in the pits or stay out. You know, heck, with a minute 23-second gap, it's going to be interesting to see if what the game is. But look at this gap now between Stastny and Maines. It's down to 6.5 seconds. 6.5 seconds, both. Yeah, so once again, Maines running about 2 to 3 seconds a lap faster than Stastny. With 29 minutes left, I think we've got a race on our hands.
Yeah, that's 2.3 seconds last time around, as Bellica has a bit of a wobble in his own right, but he's got a minute and 23 seconds lead. So yeah, depends on when he decides to pull the trigger and go into pit lane. I would probably say that it might be, if he decides to go in just for fuel only, that might be the better strategy, because there is still so much saturation. We've got less of the standing water puddles like we had maybe, say, 40 minutes ago, where it was quite literally so obvious through every single chicane, through Snake, through South Bend, through Roller Coaster, through Hogpen. The standing water was just so obvious, but now we've got to that point where the cars have been circulating, not as many as we would like to have happen, as Conor Henry gets through on Samuel Burnett, and there is Bellica going through into turn one. He's now on lap number 51 of this race. Garrett Maines, last time around, only took 1.8 seconds out of Riley Stastny, so the gap now is fluctuating at around about 5.2 seconds. So, at the meantime, it's going to be the case of how does... Oh, Conor Henry's gone off again. He's stuck with the he's stuck with the dry tyres, unfortunately, as Conor, and that is not helping his cause one iota. But there is Stastny. Gap is now down to 3.5 seconds. Stastny has just lost a bag full of time. They're going to go onto the back stretch. So what has happened to Stastny? This is, I'm sure, going to be happening into South Bend. Oh dear, he lost it big time, but he managed to correct the car in the right direction. But he absolutely hemorrhaged time. And there in the back of shot, there's Garrett Maines. This is down the back stretch heading into Roller Coaster. Stastny, with 27 minutes to go, has only got a 3.5 second buffer. Maines is absolutely tearing shreds out of that advantage that the 118 has at the moment.
Well, Alex, in Chesterton, Indiana, they get a lot of lake effect snow from Lake Michigan in the wintertime, so that's why Stastny was able to save that as well as he did, but it came at a cost of losing 2 seconds. Got a replay here of Stastny in car. Let's see what happens. He's still full on, and yeah, just that back end just starts going right there just before the apex, and he's able to save it by going oppo lock heading out of the corner.
Yeah, that's... that just goes to show how quickly you have to have these cat-like reflexes to be completely truthful. And Riley Stastny, that is probably going to be the save of the season, if I'm completely honest with you there, Jeremy. The way that he just did that, it kind of, I mean, the funny thing is that South Bend at turn 10 here at VIR kind of reminds me of T5 at Road Atlanta, you know, where you've got to be very, very careful how you go into that corner. But we now ride on board with the man that is currently P3, gunning for second, which will net him the PT Autosports eSeries Season 2 title. Garrett Maines is now only 2.2 seconds behind Riley Stastny, out of Oak Tree at turn number 12. Now it's the run down towards turns 13, 14 and 15 at the roller coaster section. You can see that Main's keeping to the right hand side, Stasny to the left, and trying to use that wet line to cool the tyres. And well, Garrett Mains is just, oh my goodness me, I've just had a look at his last lap time. Stasny 53.4, Mains 50.5. That was nearly 3 seconds. 3 seconds that Stasny is hemorrhaging time, completely hemorrhaging time. Lewis Bellica now running on the on a 149, a high 149.5, but across the line 51.6 for Stasny, 50.2 for Mains, and Mains knows that it is about nailing apexes, braking points, powering out of corners correctly. And what's even more astounding, folks, is that Bellica is about to lap. He's not that far away from lapping both Mains and Stasny in his own right. The German has been on an absolute flyer.
Well, let's see if Mains can catch up to Stasny, get in the second place. Doesn't matter if Bellica laps the field or not, because as long as Mains gets into that second place, he will have the points lead by 1 point. Now we're getting to the point where almost every camera shot we look at Stasny. Mains is just sitting there in waiting. Let's see what Stasny can do through the S's and to see if he can still keep the car pointed in the right direction. So far, so good, but little bit of a wiggle here. And if you have an off right there, Alex, you know how big it can be.
And there was a slight off there for Riley Stasny. That's probably cost him a couple of tenths there. That'll dirty up those wet weather tyres for the 118. And you can see we have a look on board from the front of the right front wing of Riley Stasny's Delara P217, and you can see the headlights looking rather menacing in the background. 1.5 seconds away. There is Garrett Mains, and that gap has come down under braking. Mains has got a real sense, not of desperation, but I would say urgency.
Ooh, Bellica with a little bit of an off back there.
Yep. So Bellica knows that he's not going to really be troubled by the two that are in front of him, but he knows that the battle in front of him is for second on the road. And Mains now, for the first time, is within 1 second as they cross the line to start their 53rd lap, respectively, in towards Horseshoe. And it's now a case of Stasny has to keep it on the black stuff, not put a foot wrong, not take a trip through the grass, not spin the car around in any way, shape or form. But it's, as Dick Jones said once in RoboCop, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And at the moment, well, we see the picture-in-picture, Lewis Bellica, he loses the back end, but keeps it on the circuit. Mains now within lunge range of Stasny. This is the moment that could decide who becomes our Season 2 PT Autosports eSeries champion. Stasny versus Mains as they come through into turn 10 at South Bend. Stasny holding strong at the moment, but he knows that Mains is not that far behind.
And Mains knows that he can wait until going into the roller coaster to make something happen. Slower car up ahead, but nonetheless, I don't think that this is going to harm the battle of the two drivers. 52.1 out of Stasny last time by Mains with a 50.7. So about 2 seconds faster Mains is, and a lot of that time is being made up there in this braking zone. Mains going to think better of it so far as they go through the roller coaster, though he closes up nice and tight as Stasny blinks just a little bit. Oh boy, are we going to see if it's going to be an on-track issue or off-track issue that causes Stasny to lose second place. Little bit of a wiggle through Hawk Pen going down the straightaway. 0.3 of a second separate the two drivers going into one, Alex.
So lap 53 in the books for these two drivers. Mains on the tail of Stasny heading into turn 1 here at Horseshoe at VIR. 21 minutes on the timer remaining until we hit the checkered flag in round 5 out of 5, the series finale. LMP2s at VIR with changeable conditions through into NASCAR Bend at turn 3. Now it's into the left hook at 4A and 4B. And Stasny still holding on. Mains with a little bit of a wiggle. Closes up under braking. Decides not to chance it. But it could be on the back straight coming out of Oak Tree next time around. But that depends on Stasny. That depends on Mains. They are line astern coming through Snake, and then it's the run down through turn 7, 8A, 8B, 9. Over the crest they come. Here on lap number 54. Maines still waiting for his opportunity to strike. Stasny that time got a little bit better traction in comparison with Maines, who's just waiting, biding his time. 20 minutes to go as we come onto the back stretch. Now it's time for Maines to use that slipstream. The rooster tails won't be as significant as we saw about an hour ago here at VIR, and at over 150 plus miles an hour. Second and third rocket their way through into roller coaster turn 13. And Maines still holds firm, decides not to chance it. He'll want to do the move on track and do it by merits, not by post-race decision. And that's quite crucial here, Jeremy, because at the moment Maines is just saying to Stasny, "Don't worry, I'm not gonna screw you over. I'm gonna make sure that when the move happens, it's gonna be fair, it's gonna be firm, but it's gonna be most of all cleanly done."
Brandon William, the driver, up ahead, side by side through turn number 1. Maines looks to the outside. Now he's going to go bump to Stasny. Going through 1 and into 2. Sets him up for the corner known as NASCAR bend. I don't think that you're going to make a pass there. Not a smart passing opportunity in these cars, but bit of an off by Maines. Maines with a couple wheels off through NASCAR bend. Easy to do through that stretch.
Yeah, if you overcook it with regards to the closing speed heading into the braking zone at a NASCAR bend, you can end up with 2 wheels on the grass. But now in the meantime, Maines is going to try and do something special here. Wheel to wheel, Maines and Stasny briefly side by side heading into turn 7. Stasny still holding on to that second place. He's saying to Maines, "You might want this series title, but boy oh boy, are you going to have to fight for it." Maines putting on a defensive masterclass here, but he's going to make a slight mistake. Maines tries to get the traction out of turn 12 off of Oak Tree. And now down the back stretch we go once again. 10th and a half and closing. Maines has got to try and do something really, really special right now. He's in the slipstream. He's pulling to the right-hand side. This is going to give him the inside line for turn number 14. Will Garrett Maines throw it around the outside? He does. And through he goes. But Stasny tried to fight it. Garrett Maines is in title winning position with 17 minutes, 30 on the clock to go, with a move around the roller coaster around the outside of Riley Stasny, puts him in second.
Now what Maines needs to do is he needs to use William as a pick. What a fantastic position move through the roller coaster, and Maines opens up that gap once again. He's a second faster on the track from Stasny, but nonetheless, Maines with that move is your points leader so far for the championship. Bellica, about a 90-second gap well ahead, no need there, but what is going to happen here in these closing stages? We see Maines trying to do all he can. He might have to fight off Stasny once again, coming around turn number 4 and into 5.
Yeah, now this is where things get a little bit more treacherous, because now Maines is on the flashers, saying to Brandon William, "Mate, you're a slower car. I'm battling for the title. I need you out of the way." And this could be very, very damaging for the 7.5 of a second lead that Garrett Maines in. Good work there by William to get out of the way, but Stasny's having to go the long way round at Oak Tree. That's not what Stasny needed, because that's cost him even more time. Gap now up to a second. So think of it this way. Maines is in second place, exactly where he needs to be to win this eSeries title. However, when you become the hunted, the person behind you is inclined to take a little bit more risk for that reward.
Well, here's the thing, too. Stasny coming off a rookie season in karts in the Briggs 206. He knows what this kind of competition's all about, so this is great training for him for real-life karting for this season. Let's see what he does. He's got his nose at the grindstone, losing time just a little bit, but still, 1.5 seconds. That's enough place, Alex, to where if Maines makes an off or a little mistake, Stasny can pounce.
Yeah, exactly. And more to the point, Stasny will know through his years of karting experience how to get your head around this kind of situation. Karting and cars, two very different, well, not, I wouldn't say completely removed from each other skill sets, but cars on sim racing, and then you add karting knowledge into that mix, you got something that could be a very, very exciting combination. But with just under 15 minutes to go, Stasny is now starting to lose time to Garrett Mains. Garrett now is 2 seconds up the road. It's about how hard Stasny wants to push, because if Stasny gets that second place, it denies Mains the title. Bellica's done nothing but absolutely everything. It kind of reminds me of the 2000 DTM penultimate round of the championship that went to Circuit Zandvoort in September of 2013, and I was there as a reporter. And it was going to come down to one driver winning that title. And it was kind of the same situation as we had here, that the driver that would finish second would end up winning the title, and his nearest challenger would have to go absolutely hell for leather. And that's exactly what we've got here. The two drivers at that point, one known to many an IMSA sports car fan, Augusto Farfus from Curitiba in Brazil, one of the BMW Works factory drivers, and also another American well-known driver, Mike Rockenfeller, 2013 DTM champion. Those were the two drivers. So Bellica knows that he's done everything right. He can't do anything more. He's just got to hope and pray that something occurs in the next 13 and a half minutes.
And of course, we saw how fast things can go very wrong in these slick conditions, as we're on board with Riley Stasny as he's a little wiggle through turn number 2, going through NASCAR Bend right now. That extra runoff really paying dividends, especially in these slick conditions. And he's backed off just a little bit, about a second slower on the track between he and Mains with a quick little off coming through 4. But yeah, you've got to give credit to Stasny. When he knew the gig was up, he just said, you know what? I'll race you, but I'm not going to be that defensive. But he's still sitting and waiting for anything to happen here in these closing stages. But I would say probably about 5, maybe 6 laps left. So a lot of corners for something to go wrong. But looks like Garrett Mains has this title. He's got one hand on the title, the other is on the wheel right now as William recovering from an off and on the circuit.
Yep, so we are 12 minutes and 20 to go. Lewis Bellica, 60% of the way through lap number 59 of this fantastic circuit. Just a shade under 3.3 miles here at VIR, 18 turns in all. As we keep on board with Riley Stasny, we're going to have a replay picture-in-picture. Brandon William goes off, and that would have been in front of the race leader, Lewis Bellica. That would have been coming through out of Oak Tree at turns 11 and 12. But Riley Stasny, just, you know, a really, really good solid run to end this 5-round series here for PT Autosport. And a big thank you to everyone that's been watching so far on the Global Sim Racing channel. We thoroughly have enjoyed your company over the last hour and a half plus change. But there is Garrett Mains. He's still holding true to where he needs to be. We're on to lap 60 of the circuit. So probably the best part of, I would say, closing up to maybe 200 miles of racing, give or take, really, to be honest with you. So I would probably say we'll probably hit around about 64, 65 laps when we hit the checkered for Garrett Mains. Well, started on pole position. Now, that was the big thing. He would have gotten 3 points for qualifying for putting it on pole, and that gave him that little bit more of a window of opportunity, that he knew that if Bellica was going to win this race, I need to finish second no matter what happens, and that's exactly what he's decided to do. He kept going, he kept pushing on, and that is just also a great sign of perseverance and motivation, that when you have the opportunity to go into a competition where you have the chance to get some dollars to go real-time racing, maybe in GR86 Cup in 2026, but Garrett Mains will probably be thinking to himself, you know what? I've really enjoyed this series, but you know what? At this point, the thing is that he's not worried about that title here, Jeremy. What he's worried about is getting the car home.
Yeah, and you really need to get the car home, even if it's, backing off just a little bit. He's running actually a little bit faster than our leader, Lewis Bellica, but again, Bellica is basically on their tail end at this point because he knows that, I don't have much to play for right now. I'm sitting with a massive lead. I have nobody around me. Let's just get the car home as well, because one big off, and that could be race over, championship over for Bellica. But the championship's not the way the championship is. It's not in his hands. It's in Mains's hands. And yeah, you have to bring that car home. To finish first, you must first finish. So with these drying conditions, and now we're seeing the track temperature fall just even more as Hines off with an off and on in the early part of the lap. But back to our point, you have to keep the car home. These wet tires, they're going to last you to the end of the races. We're under 10 minutes left. It's just 9 minutes left. But you still have to be smart about what's going on around you.
Yeah. And, well, Bellica just keeping himself on the tarmac. And the funny thing is that the the track temperature has dropped to its absolute lowest so far. We're at 22.5 degrees Celsius air temp. 15 degrees track temp, which says to me, well, the dry tyres are still slower than the wets. Garrett Mains running, get this, 50.1, and Connor Henry a 52.4. So that is a 2.3 second differential between wet and dry weather tyres. If the track temperature had gone up here, Jeremy, yes, I think we would have probably have seen a quicker evolution. If it was 5 to 6 degrees centigrade higher on the track than it was on air, as Lewis Bellica, with 8 minutes to go, is going to come in. I think this is going to be his last stop of the day. So this will probably be either tyres and fuel or fuel only. But this man here knows that the man behind is going to pick up what he was hoping to win probably about half an hour ago. He was hoping that maybe Stasny and Mains would keep each other interlocked into battle. Lewis Bellica out after it was splash and dash for the German, a man from Karlsruhe in Baden-Württemberg in the middle of Germany. He has done everything he can, but it's this man here for the Virginias, Garrett Mains, with 7.25 minutes to go, who's also been running, has been running in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series for 4 seasons. He now has the opportunity to prove himself by what he's done. He's come into this with a slender lead, and as they say, in order to finish first you must finish. Garrett Mains, he won't give a hoot if he finishes second, but he knows that the nerves will start to creep in very shortly, because we've got just under 7 minutes to go. Bellica with a 60-second lead. Mains knows that he's got to do everything. If he has to start doing a little bit of lifting, coasting now here, Jeremy, and still keep Stasny behind him, well, if he pits now, that's going to be all she wrote. Mains just needs to keep doing what he's doing, not push too hard, but he's going to come across the line. His last lap was a 49.9. He goes across the stripe again now, 50.0. So it's about how, and he's just got off. He's just got off. Oh, that was a scare there for Garrett Mains. And he lost about 2 seconds. If that was any further down on the outfield, Stasny would have been past him, and that would have changed the tide right at the last gasp. But Mains kept a calm head. He's gone, right, okay, I've made a little bit of a mistake. Let's try and minimise these. Let's not use too much of the curbing. And as I say that, he uses plenty of it going through turn 5A and into Snake. But it's about just, as I said, getting the car home. He nearly didn't get the car home right then.
I think we're getting to the point too where now the track's drying out and we have a cold surface, so those wet tires may not be working as good as they did about 15, 20 minutes ago. His best bet, about 5 minutes left to go in this race. Bring it home. Take it easy. No need to really rush right now, as he's got over a minute ahead of him between the gap, 7 seconds behind him. Plenty of time left. Alex, you know as well as I do from following racing as long as we both have, that championships have been lost with drivers having this big of a gap and thinking, I still need to push 10 tenths.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, a lot of my travels are in karting, but it's also a bit now moving a bit more into tin tops this year and sports cars. But I've always said to youngsters who are in karting, I go, you might think the championship is yours, but you cannot rest on your laurels. If you're in the final and it's the last day of the season, the one thing you want to do, more importantly than taking home that win, is to get your kart 100% across that finish line. And if you know where you need to finish, don't risk it, because sometimes that can be your undoing. And when I say to them, when you get that feeling of exaltation, that sign of euphoria, when you've crossed that line and you've done that job and you've got that title in your hands, then you can rest. But until that point, you've got to look at every strategy call. You've got to listen to everyone that's going to give you the right advice to do so. And Garrett Mains would have come into this race possibly with the thought of, right, I've got it on pole, let's go for the win. It hasn't worked out that way. But with drivers like Garrett, there's always going to be a plan B. There's always going to be a way in which of going, right, I'm not going to get the win. What do I need to do? It's not what should I do, it's what do I need to do. There's a big difference between the two sentences that I've just mentioned.
Well, of course, that stop where he went from dries to wets, that was the long stop. And then he ended up in contact during this past stint. Now he has to focus. Oh boy, that was a little bit of wiggle there going through the roller coaster. Now he's got about a couple laps to focus on getting that car home. Connor Henry with it off right now. He's the only driver on slicks, but Bellica with a 62-second lead. And I'd imagine we would have 1 lap to go depending on when Bellica comes across the line as we see a replay.
Yeah, Sam Burnett, the 256 from Ontario in Canada. Oh no, that's a 180, and that's at the horseshoe, holds on to the brakes. It looks like that car's on slick tyres as well. Yeah, yes, it is. But the thing is that Bellica, I think we're going to have 2 laps remaining. Riley Stasny has had to dive into the pit lane, and that brings Mark Anthony Hinkson, the man from Bridgetown St. Philip in Barbados. There's Bellica closing in, and we're going to have 2 laps to go. We're now on to lap 65 out of 66. Lewis Bellica having a lead of nearly 1 minute and 3 seconds over series champion-elect Garrett Mains, the man from Virginia in the number 1 car. And Bellica, Lewis Bellica just drops it. And I think, you know what, I think he's now realised I can't do anything about what's happening behind me. I'm just going to let's just bring it home and just enjoy the fact that I've gotten a victory in this last race of the season. I mean, you have to say he's going to be a gallant runner-up. And there's a lot of great racing drivers from Germany within the sim racing world, such as Max Benecke, Moritz Lerner, just to name a few, Dennis Schoeninger, all with the team based out of Munich, Maus eSports. But Bellica has really shown that he could have been the man that would have won this, but with 42 seconds on the timer, he's making his way down the backstretch, it looks like, for what will be the 65th time. And he might actually he might decide, if he decides to slow down or that moment through that we just saw might have meant that we could have had possibly 65 laps on the bubble. Well, Lewis Belliker is going to come through Hogpen very, very shortly. I'm not too sure if there is a points race drop, but we might have confirmation after this who will have possibly have won not just the race but also the series, as we will go on to our final lap. 66 in total. Lewis Belliker will bring us into our final lap of this race, and it has been declared on the timing. Lewis Belliker has done everything right. Garrett Mains has done everything that he's needed to. I'm not 100% sure about the points drop. We're just going by the points that we've seen through the top 10 standings that we were provided with by our director, Christian Deploy, before this race. So I'm not too sure what the points are like at the moment. But, well, what can you say? Lewis Belliker here, Jeremy, has hit the front and kept on going. But Garrett Mains looks to be the one that, if it does happen, that he could be the PT Autosport Season 2 eSeries title winner.
Well, here's the thing, too. Belliker, even finishing second, he'll get an invitation to join the eSports team, and that in and of itself is huge because he'll get the coaching that he needs to possibly be invited to the shootout if he wins the next championship, if he so chooses. But Alex going down, clicking down the gears, heading into the roller coaster for the final time. Belliker had that commanding lead since the rain. He's about ready to bring home a win at VIR.
Well, he hasn't put a foot wrong. He started on the outside of the front row. Carlos Ruiz, Lewis Belliker comes out of the final corner at Hogpen. So I'm going to welcome him across the line. Gratulation, Lewis Belliker, der Sieger heutzutage bei PT Autosports Serienfinale. Lewis Belliker takes the win, but it's going to be a little bit of a wait. And what will be the case of one man that started on pole has been put through the ringer here at VIR. Garrett Mains from the Virginias is not that far away. He's about 50% plus a little bit as he comes down in towards the backstretch for the final time. And all drivers have been racing all the way through this season on a fixed setup designed to challenge drivers on individual car traits, and boy, has it tested drivers like Garrett Mains. But the number one is going to make sure that he is number one, coming out of Hogpen for the final time. It might not be the victory that he wanted, but Garrett Mains from the Virginias is going to cross the line here at VIR, and by a single solitary point becomes provisionally your PT Autosport eSeries Season 2 champion.
What a finish for Mains, as we see Hinkson, who had his struggles, going to come around down through roller coaster, but got to give a credit to Mains. You saw how far back that he was in the middle part of this race after that long pit stop, and was able to fight through adversity to take the championship. Second place in the race by about a minute, but down to the stripe. Mark Anthony Hinkson will be on the bottom step of the podium, as we are hearing from our director that, yes, Garrett Mains is your 2025 PT Autosports eSeries champion, with an invitation to go over to the New Jersey Motorsports Park in Millville, New Jersey, to be a part of the PT Autosport Toyota GR Cup Shootout.
Well, yes, so it is going to be this man here from the Virginias, Garrett Mains, the man who qualified first, decided to stick with the number one all season long, and he, after 5 rounds, has pretty much been confirmed as your PT Autosport eSeries Season 2 champion here in 2025. What now? The euphoria will be sinking in. I'm sure we're going to get a couple of chats with some of our drivers post-race. And also, it has been confirmed through. There is one drop score taken into consideration, but how close was it? Garrett Mains takes the title. Belica victorious at VIR with LMP2 machinery put through the ringer. I cannot believe what we've witnessed. It has been an absolute joy to watch this race. So let's have a look at your results here at the final round of the season for PT Autosports eSeries Season 2. Lewis Belica, the 20-year-old from Karlsruhe in Germany, takes the win by a minute ahead of the man who has been confirmed as your eSeries Season 2 champion. And we'll head out to the New Jersey Motorsports Park for the GR86 Cup shootout. Garrett Mains. The pride of Barbados, Mark Anthony Hinkson, rounds out the season with a P3 finish. The 24-year-old from Bridgetown in St. Philip finishes ahead of Riley Stasny, with Daniel Falkingham rounding out the top 5. Christian Hines in 6th, ahead of Brandon William. Connor Henry, Sam Burnett from Canada, Ontario, Canada, finishes in 9th, ahead of Ben Nelson, who was the first driver to chance it on slicks. Charles Wimbley, Matthew Deshane, Noah Ingram Harrison rounding out the top 13, with Brandon Devine and Brendan Blinn unfortunately not turning a wheel in this 66-lap race. What a joy it has been to commentate on this over the past what is it? It's coming up to nearly an hour and nearly up to 2 hours here, Jeremy. We had it all thrown at us here tonight, didn't we?
We really did, especially with the changing conditions when we came on the air. It just started raining, and then we had the deluge that you normally see in the southeast. And that's when we saw winter drivers going to come in and pit for wets. And then when we had the wets, we had some miscues. But regardless, this was a fantastic race, and I've got to say the time at the mic really has flown by, because in spite of the gaps that you see on paper, we had a lot of great battles all around the circuit.
Yeah. So, well, what we're going to do is we're going to speak to the man who finished second on the road, but he's going to go to New Jersey later on this year. Garrett Mains joins us. Garrett, that was a race to remember, despite the fact that you were put through the ringer, multiple off tracks, but you got to where you needed to be, P2, enough to secure the PT Autosports eSeries Season 2 crown. Congratulations, first of all.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll be honest with you. Coming into this race, I was under the impression it was a must-win, a must get the pole, and have to win by 2 positions. Just wasn't really aware of the situation. I just kind of sat back and rode. I was letting Matthew do his thing and just kind of hoping that I could keep Matthew in between us if I got back by him, but I don't know. I just learned the hard way going on the pit road there. I didn't know the strategy. It looked like the rain, technically, like it had a pocket potentially where we would only get a couple laps of rainfall. That didn't happen. We got about 20 minutes of it, and just the indecisiveness on the strategy from me just kind of set me up to fail there going on the pit road. And I learned that there is indeed a imaginary commit cone. It is painted on the racetrack, but I've never actually experimented with whether or not that matters. So it does. It's a 40-second hold, and I really just kind of spiraled after that, knowing that I needed to push. If I had any chance, you got to make up something in the rain. I knew Lewis didn't really have the pressure there and was trying to put some, and I learned about every possible way I can make a mistake in turn 10. Still don't really know what I was doing wrong, but I was finding it. But yeah, to be able to just save the fuel there and be in contention, I'm still kicking myself knowing that I felt like I could have put up a good fight had I not made that mistake. But overall, a good ending, I guess.
Well, let's go to that battle with you and Riley Stasny. I mean, I think, what was it? It must have been a good 5 or 6 laps. We saw you cut that gap down from what was about 8 seconds to 0.3 at its lowest, and then Riley was making the back end of his Dallara P217 as wide as humanly possible, and then it was a case of you trying to get past him. We saw you guys multiple times side by side coming out of Oak Tree down the backstretch. And then there was that point where it was just like, I knew for a fact, I could feel my ears burning, like you saying to yourself, come on, you got to get this. You got to get this.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting back and, I kind of figured from a fuel perspective I was going to be fine to the end. But I knew the pressure was being put on him. I could see he was going wide in a lot of places, but I just didn't feel like I needed to push the issue just yet. I felt like I had the pace advantage. I didn't want to put myself in a situation where like his mistake cost me. So I was trying to, sit back, see if he'd just like give it up on accident, but he put up a good fight. And down the backstretch, I felt like going down the inside for roller coaster is just the safer option. I will say, like from a performance side, I feel like being on the other side usually yields a better result, especially with the water on the inside is a little sketch. But I just didn't want to like put my fate in anybody else's hand. I just wanted to, see how it was all panning out and see if I could get by without really risking anything. And obviously we were able to do that and hold on to second.
Well, Garrett, before we let you go, and obviously you've got now a direct entry into PT Autosports 2025 Aspiring Driver Shootout Finals, where that real-world racing opportunity is up on the table to compete in the Toyota GR86 Cup. Who would you like to give a shout-out to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to give a huge thank you to Wigan Water Technologies for coming on board this year. Really excited to be able to get on the track in real life with them this year. And I'm actually running Spec E30 here at VIR. We just had one of the most eventful weekends possible here in real life. But, top it off with another eventful one on the sim. But yeah, really cool to, have them on board this year. And also got to give a big thank you to Scott at MCU Body and Lennox for their support.
Brilliant. Garrett Mains, our PT Autosports eSeries 2025 champion, heading to New Jersey. Congratulations and good luck. We know you're not going to need luck, but hopefully you're going to show your skills to those people on the track real time later on this year. Well done today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, after speaking to Garrett, let's bring in the man who was so close, Louis Belliker from Karlsruhe in Germany. Louis, firstly, congratulations on the win. It was so close. It was so close. You did everything right. Didn't get quite pole position, but put it on the front row. And you won by the best part of just over a minute at the flag.
Yeah, it was a pretty chaotic race with the rain, and I knew a 2-hour race would be pretty tough on the physical side as well, and especially with the pit stops we had to do. But yeah, there was a small mess up on the qualifying. Otherwise, it would have been a bit better. But I think everyone had done a bit of a mess up on the qualifying with the cold tires.
Yeah, I mean, because literally I think it was, 20-25 minutes in, there was that big deluge of rainfall, and it was a case of the air temperature on the circuit was not raising like the air temperature was raising, but the track temperature wasn't, which meant that there was that 50-50 decision of sticking with wet or dry tires. I would know probably from your standpoint it was the better call of action to stick with the wet tires, wasn't it?
Yeah, at the last stop, obviously I was already on the wet tire since it poured down like crazy, and my decision was, since I had a minute 40 gap to Gareth behind, I was just gonna stick on the dries because there were some tricky puddles on the track, and I didn't want to throw the win away. I didn't need to risk it, so I just stuck on my old wets and then brought it home.
But still, to nearly lap both Riley and Garrett coming towards the end of the race. Nearly being a lap ahead at the end of it. It just goes to show that anything can happen, but you must be really pleased with how you've done in this series so far, up until this point.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the only real mistake I made was in round 1, where I messed up my qualifying part, so that kind of put me on the back foot the entire championship. And then for the second race, I made a mistake, but all the other races where I was on road and my home territory, let's say, I felt pretty confident, and they worked pretty great for me.
Well, Lewis, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us after the race. Before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening, anyone you'd like to give a thank you to?
Yeah, I mean, I would give a huge thank you to all the guys that are setting these things up, everyone behind the scenes, everyone who is in front of the screen, and all your commentators and the broadcast. It's a great thing, especially watching it back. It's quite a joy. And then, also obviously Apex Racing Team, who is my team, and they basically taught me everything. I was in their academy before, and I'm in the main team, so yeah, they pretty much showed me everything.
Brilliant. Well, at least I can tell you now that I actually congratulated you over the line in German, so you'll enjoy that one. So you might have to put that on your social media a little bit later. But Gratulation, well done today, and hopefully we'll see you back for the next season for PT Autosports eSeries Season 3.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Have a great one.
So a big thank you there to Lewis Bellica. Next up, let's bring in the pride of Barbados, Mark Anthony Hinkson. Mark Anthony, did you expect after 2 hours of race? Well, he's just jumped back into the ready for right. So Mark Anthony Hinkson, the pride of Barbados, jumps back in and out again. I'm not too sure what's going on here at the minute. Trying to have a chat with our third place driver. He started 5th on the road, took 3rd place. Let's see. Let's bring in. I think we've got Brandon William in with us at the moment. Brandon, can you hear us?
Hello.
Well, that was an interesting race, wasn't it? It was up and down like a yo-yo with those weather conditions, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It was very tricky out there. This is my first time actually driving I'm sure actually it is for a lot of the guys out there. It was maybe their first time driving that LMP2 out there. Yeah, the conditions were one to definitely keep in mind. It was certainly a challenge, but personally, I do enjoy that challenge. So, yeah.
I mean, you started off in 8th on the grid, managed to get up the order, but we did see a bit of a rate of attrition. A few drivers, I think, including yourself, getting caught out, especially like, say, going through the roller coaster section. We saw quite a few drivers actually go off and hit the tyre barriers. What was your strategy of just trying to get to the end of the race?
For the first half, it was definitely before the transition into the rain. When I got word that there was actually rain incoming, I was certainly a little bit surprised. So for me, it was a matter of definitely trying to get the timing right. Certainly, if you were to, because these tires, it takes a lot to get them up to temperature. So. That was something I hadn't experienced to this degree in this car before, but I think in the second half it was definitely more so a race of survival. Like there was a lot more moments in which I had off tracks, but to come away with a P7 in the end just by surviving, I can say that I'm pretty pleased with that.
Brilliant. Well, Brandon, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us in the post-race interview show.
Thank you.
Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
I'd like to thank my friends who have been supporting me throughout this time to get to this point, my journey through sim racing. I'd like to also thank PT Autosport for providing me with this opportunity, to providing everyone with the opportunity for what is undoubtedly absolutely lovely prize. I will definitely be looking forward to if they can provide something similar in the future, taking upon that. But for
Brilliant.
them to provide that opportunity in the first place, absolutely incredible from their end.
Well, Brandon, thanks for taking the time to us. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon, and hopefully we'll see if they go ahead with Season 3.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
So a big thank you there to New York, the man from Queens, New York, Brandon William. Last but by certainly no means least, let's bring him in. The 24-year-old Barbadian Mark Anthony Hinkson joins us in the booth. Mark Anthony, firstly, I thought I recognised the name from the FIA Motorsport Games in Valencia last year, both competing in GT and F4. But how does it feel after 2 hours around VAR on iRacing to get on the rostrum?
Well, it was a very long season, and to finish the season on the podium, it feels great. When I saw the race was 2 hours and a bit of rain there in the forecast, I was like, to stay consistent, should end well, and it worked out really well. Yeah,
I mean, you started P5 on the grid. I mean, of course, for those that don't know about Mark Anthony, I mean, this is something that I found out quite interesting, that you've got a bachelor's degree in business management and entrepreneurship. How does that correlate with your sim racing career? first of all?
Well, let's just say I don't get much time to do sim racing. It's pretty much working, and then on a night you just get like 1 hour to 2 hours maximum to sim race. So there's no real practice or driving during the week. Let's just put it that way. I had to go work right before this competition.
But still, to take P3, you know, I mean, a good friend of mine, you might know of him, Henry Baudet, comes over to help with a lot of things over in the Caribbean. Reference with, I think it might be. I'm not too sure if it's Barbados. It might be somewhere else in the Caribbean or something like that. But the amount of recognition that you've got, and now to be P3. If PT Autosports comes back for the eSports series for Season 3, I'm sure we're going to see you on the grid and pushing hard, my friend.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm going to come again, and I'm going to try to bring some other Caribbean guys with me too. We could have at least 5 Caribbean guys on the grid.
Brilliant. Well, Mark Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. Hardly any practice. You still get a P3 at the end of the race. Who would you like to thank before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your Saturday?
Well, I would like to thank, first of all, competitor in here, Christian Hines. He put me on to PT Autosport on the final deadline day, so I signed up the night before, and since then it's been one of the best competitions ever. And also all of my sim racing friends out there who continuously push me, because I come from a rallying background. So all of this track racing is kind of new to me, so I'm just constantly improving, and I just like to thank all of them who just give me tips.
Fantastic. Mark Anthony Hinkson, thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and hopefully we might see you on GSRC very soon if you decide to pick up another championship and carry on with that circuit racing knowledge development. But well done today.
Thank you very much.
Well, Jeremy, great to hear from all those competitors there, but a great way to conclude Season 2 of PT Autosport eSeries. Garrett Maines going to New Jersey Motorsport Park later on this year for a possibility to go racing back in real life for GR86 Cup competition, possibly in 2026. This race had everything, didn't it, buddy?
It really did. You know, 2 things that stuck out to me from Garrett Maines' interview. First of all, thinking it's a winner take all. So he had that mindset from the beginning. And 2, coming off running a BMW Spec E30 at VIR, really, I think that helped him out as well, because that's another car that's a momentum car. It's a car where you really got to be on your game, because one wrong move and it will bite. We saw a lot of great passing. We saw, what drivers who went off. We saw a lot of fast guys who got it wrong, but nonetheless, at the end, Garrett Maines did what he had to do to take the championship, and now he's rewarded with a trip out to New Jersey in November.
Yeah, well, folks, that wraps up our coverage here on Global Sim Racing Channel for the final round of Season 2 of the PT Autosports eSeries Championship. You join myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Jeremy Scott in the booth. Christian Deploy, our director behind the scenes, with cameras supplied by Dougie Beard. There's going to be a lot of racing still to come here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. So, well, you've got Sunday, tomorrow. Well, the clocks go forward in continental Europe and the United Kingdom. It's 9 a.m. UTC, 5 a.m. Eastern EDT for the Skip Barber Race Series heading to Road Atlanta. Then we've got the Sunday Grand Prix Series Lotus 79 heading to the fantastic Floridian circuit, simply known as Sebring. This will also be broadcasted live on the iRacing channels, as they will go into battle at 4:30 p.m. UTC, 12:30 Eastern. Eric Jr. Racing goes to Portland on, whichever time zone you're in, Sunday the 30th of March at 8:45 p.m. Eastern and 12:45 a.m. UTC on Monday the 31st of March. Sim Racing Republic will head to the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit on the 5th of April in just 7 days' time, 12:25 p.m. UTC, 8:25 a.m. Eastern. This has been a Genesis Extreme production here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. And as always, race hard, race fair, and if in doubt, well, you better go flat out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.